Today we're going to start the top of Tzadik Amud Aleph. Tashma, it's the last word on the line. We thank Hashem that we're able to learn. It's because of our learning, we should have basic English immediately. Okay, if you remember, what's happening here is Machlekes Rav Chisda and Rabbah regarding what the sages are allowed to do, regarding how much they can take away from the Torah. The sages have the power to to permit something that the Torah forbids. We got into this because there's a discussion about what does it mean that there's a mamzer midirabanan. Does that mean that this mamzer is allowed to marry a mamzeres? So Rabbah said no. Rav Chisda seemed to say yes. So now, Tashma, come and listen. Achal truma tameya. Someone ate truma tameya. Well, no one's allowed to eat truma tameya. Not a kohen. Truma is what's given to the kohen, and it has to be kept tar, has to be kept pure. So no one's really allowed to eat this. Here we're talking about where someone, a zar, ate the truma tameya. The kohen himself wasn't allowed to eat it. Now a zar ate it. How does he pay back? He has to pay for what he ate. It says mishalim chulin tahirin. He has to pay chulin that's tar. It's a little more expensive than what he ate. He ate truma. It's always like this. He eats truma, which is cheaper. He has to pay back chulin, but that chulin usually immediately turns into truma, because he pays it back. He had taken truma and now replaces it with chulin that becomes truma. So mishalim chulin tyrant. If it's pshagi, usually has to add a chaimish as well. Shileim chulin tameim. Let's say he paid back chulin tameim, tamei chulin, which was not what he's supposed to pay back when he eats truma. So Sumchas Eimer Mishum Reb Meir. Sumchas is a student of Reb Meir. So he says that it depends. If he paid back an inferior, this is like an inferior product, because he's paying back. Actually, it's not inferior than what he ate. What he ate is also quite bad, quite inferior. He had truma tameya. There's almost nothing you can do with it other than burn it. And here he's paying back. If he's paying back chulin tameim, so it depends. B'shoigeg, if he didn't realize that it was tamei, which is very possible, you can't see on the item that it's tamei. Yeah. He didn't notice or whatever, or he knew and he forgot or something like that. So tashlum of tashlumin, it's considered like you paid back. Where's the problem? It's b'mezid. If he knows that it's tamei and he's trying to pay back, you see, it's chulin tameim, you could eat it. It's not a useless item. You could eat chulin tameim. Even a kohen can eat it. He's just not around the time when he's supposed to be going to the Beis Hamikdash.
Is this someone who's tamei from a meis mitzvah?
No, it's probably tamei because of sheretz or something.
Sheretz is...
This dead creature that was found in the pile of grain. Okay, so if it's b'mezid, ain't tashlum of tashlumin, then what he paid back is not considered paid back. It's interesting. What's going to be with it? He knew that it was tamei. We're talking about he ate b'shoigeg. Yeah, he ate b'shoigeg. Now, when it comes to paying back, he paid back b'mezid. He didn't know that it was truma when he ate it. When it comes to paying back, he's b'mezid giving tamei chulin to pay it back. Okay, so we say that it's nothing. However, the sages say the sages say what he paid is good. He just has to pay again. What does it mean? What he paid is good? It means that it actually becomes like consecrated. because when you pay something back, it becomes truma. Okay, we're not done yet. This is a long question. On this Mishnah, we deliberated on this. Heavy is to be. We question this. And what does it mean? It's not considered paying. He ate Shuma Tameya. No one's allowed to eat that. What's he paying back? Chulin Tameim. Now, when a Kayan's Tame, what type of food should he eat? He can eat tar food, he can eat Truma, but he can also eat Tame food. It's Tame anyway. Tame Chulin. Right? So he...
Once you start eating food that's tuma, it's already asur, but since he already...
No, it's not really...
Yeah, but...
What happened was here, we're paying to the Kohen food that was tummy, that was eaten, that belonged to the Kohen. We're paying it back. He's paying back with tummy food as well. Now the difference is that he ate truma that was tummy. He's paying back chulin. That's not
paying back. Like
it was eaten from his produce.
Oh, okay.
So it has to be replaced. Repaid.
Whoa, that's weird.
So. So he's actually giving something that's useful, because when the Kohen's tamei, he'll be able to eat this chulin tamei. So why are you telling me that it's nothing? Ain't that even b'mezid? Ain't that some tashlumin? So v'amar Rava v'amri la kidi. Rava says, and some say that it's kidi. Kidi is a big discussion if kidi means anonymous or if it's actually the name of a sage. It's a big discussion about what the beginning of Gittin is. I'm sorry, what does it say over there?
Unattributed.
Unattributed, yeah. So, we have to redo this brisa, and we'll make it fit. We'll amend it. It goes like this. Achal truma tmeya mishalim koldehu. If he eats truma tmeya, he can pay back whatever he wants, even chulin tmeya. Achal truma tahira. Now it becomes a question. Now here's our issue. If he ate regular truma, mishalim chulim tahirim, then you have to pay chulim tahirim. What happened if shilim chulim tameim? Now that's not an equal. He's paying back an inferior product. So Simcha says Mishum Reb Meir b'shegig tashlum and tashlum of tashlumin. Simcha says the name of Reb Meir that if it was b'shegig, we say okay, it worked. You didn't do it on purpose. Gave to the Kohen, it still has value. But if you did it on purpose, ain't tashlumin. It's not considered that you paid back. You have to pay back again. There's a knas. Chacham say, well, what he paid is paid, but he has to do it again.
You don't have to bring like carbon katas. Is that it? The carbon? The one that burnt meat or something?
The person that ate truma shegeg, I don't think there's a carbon there. He has to pay back a keren b'chaimish. He has to pay back an extra fifth.
Yeah.
For some reason, we're not mentioning the fifth over here.
But that fifth is tame food that it's referring to here, no?
Well, what he ate, there was two cases here. What he ate. One case was he ate tame food that we said back that we said that he could pay back tame chulin, and then we have another case where he ate tar truma. We said should not pay back tame chulin, and if he does, then according to the chachamim, he has to do it again. Doesn't matter shegig or mezid, and according to some chas, it makes a difference if it's shegig or mezid. Okay. Another shegig or mezid means if he realized when he was paying back what it was. Okay, so now we have a question. In this case, V'ha, hacha. But here. But here. Yeah, haka mean but. And hacha means here. The midaraisa, according to the Torah, Tashlum and Mal Yahavi, it is a good payment. If you remember yesterday, we had a statement that if someone gives a inferior truma, it still becomes truma, but it's a sin. We had a statement from Rabbi Loi. Minayin l'tayrim min hara liyafish shumasa truma. It says v'leisisol of chet barim chemaskal b'menu. If it's not holy, so what are you telling me? It's a sin. It's nothing. The answer was that it is holy. It's just a sin. Okay. Now, so this is clearly truma because we have that statement from Rabbi Loi that it's truma. And the imakadishbu kayan, if the kayan would take this, the imakadishbu kayan isha, tafsala kedusha, it's enough that it would be considered his. It's a real payment, and the woman would be considered married. V'amar Rabbanan, however, the sages said, now Rabbanan over here doesn't mean the Chachamim. The Rabbanan here means that Reb Meir says, Simchas in the name of Reb Meir, ain't Tashlum, and that he did nothing. You know what comes out? If you say that what he paid is nothing, because Sharina Neshishis La'alma, the rabbis are allowing a married woman to walk around as if she's single. Anyone can marry her. This is a dramatic way. No, this is a dramatic way of the Gemara telling me that the rabbis have stopped a certain payment, have made a payment and considered not valid. How are they doing this? They're saying like this: he paid back chulin tameim for truma tahira that he ate. He ate a pure truma, which he wasn't allowed to. When it comes to paying back, he paid back an inferior quality chulin, regular food, which was tamei. Okay. The sages said, according to Reb Meir, that this payment is not valid. He did it on purpose. He paid back this. It's not valid. Now, meanwhile, this fellow, the Kohen, has married a woman, given this food to a woman that he had received, and which was his. The woman becomes married to him, comes along the rabbis and say, oh no, the payment was nothing. The woman now is single. Meanwhile, she's really married.
If they say that.
Kedushin. Kedushin.
Children.
Yeah. She's betrothed. So, how are they allowing this?
Yeah.
So the Gemara says, one second. Mayin tashlum, you just said that the payment is not a valid payment. What does that mean? The Kamar of Meir, the it's not that it's not a payment. He just has to do it again. Of course, the money belongs to him. He has to pay more. So the marriage is a marriage from the Kohen that he did. Gemara says, Ihachi, if that's the case, so what's the difference? Sumchas and the Chachamim. Reb Meir and the Chachamim, what's the difference? Ihachi, Sumchas and Rabbanan. What did the Chachamim say? They said, Tashlum of Tashlum, and it's a good payment. However, he has to pay again. What did Sumchas say? Ain't Tashlum Tashlum. Now the way you're telling me that the pay ain't Tashlum Tashlum, that it's not a good payment means that you just have to pay again. That's what Sumchas says, that you have to pay again. So they're saying the same thing. So Gemara says, there is a difference between them. If we say that the shogeg is also not good, according to Reb Meir, the shogeg was fine, and according to Simchas and Reb Meir, shogeg was fine. It was considered a valid payment, and according to Chachamim, it wasn't. That's because konsu shogeg got to mezid. That's a concept that we have, that we say that if someone did it by mistake, we give them the same rule as if they did it on purpose. Ooh. The reason for this is usually because people said, oh, I didn't know what I was doing. So we say, well, it doesn't matter.
No one says you did it unwittingly. He said, I did it on purpose.
Yeah, usually they don't do that. It's not uncommon. Yeah.
Is this like the principle you learned about
In Me'ila was b'shagig, and also you have to pay back a karen v'chaymesh. And how do you pay back? Over there, you weren't paying food that was becoming food. By truma, you pay back food that turns into food. By Me'ila, you pay back the value. Yeah, and by Me'ila, there's a carbon. That's what he was, maybe that's what you were referring to. By Me'ila, there's a carbon. Hasham Me'ilas. Okay.
In this case, so someone says I made it by mistake. He really did do it intentionally. He just wants to.
According to the Chachamim, that's a concern.
Wants a lighter penalty.
Right.
Hit him with everything.
Right.
Very modern.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah, of course. I just forgot about it.
That's because you're dealing with students, but in the real world, there was never such a thing. I didn't see the speed limit. Anyone cares? Like, you didn't see you get a ticket, you're finished, right? It's
Right.
clearly, Kansa Shagi got the Mesa Day. That's in the real world. It doesn't matter if you have an excuse.
Yeah.
It's only in school where they have. That's the problem. I got
Yeah.
No, there's a law in economics about if you intend to monopolize, that's the crime
Oh,
in the U.S. law.
uh-huh.
So how do you
There's
evaluate intent? The guy's a
There's-
monopolist.
Yeah.
So sometimes the monopoly was like thrown on him by heaven. He
Uh-huh.
just happened to
Uh-huh.
invent something and he's got the monopoly. So you have to evaluate whether it was this.
Oh, interesting.
There's a term also
Okay.
called like gross negligence. Like
Uh-huh.
just
Right.
just weren't paying attention.
Uh-huh.
Really.
Well, there's gross negligence and there's negligence.
It's like you're not even doing your job almost.
Right.
Something that you're totally responsible for.
Totally responsible.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Tashima. Come and listen. Dam shenitma v'zarku. Talking about a carbon, and one of the most important parts of doing the carbon is to sprinkle the blood on the mizbeach. So, if the blood became tummy, and it was sprinkled anyway, well, b'shegeg, if you didn't realize that it became tummy, then hurtza, the sacrifice is considered valid. B'mezid, but if it was intentional, you realize that it's tummy, you sprinkled it anyway. Loy hurtza, it's not an appeasement. That means the sacrifice that was not effective.
Blood in and of itself is tummy, no?
No, if it blood from a corpse, a certain amount.
Oh.
This is blood from an animal that was shechted. It's
Uh-huh.
fine.
It got mixed in.
Sprinkle, you have to know.
Yeah, it's not tummy. The meat is not tummy. The animal was shechted. If an animal dies, it's
okay.
without shechita, it becomes a nevela. That's a type of tumah.
Ah,
But here it was shechted. It's not. It's pure.
got it.
Mistake.
Sorry.
How can you do it intentionally? This is Cohen, right?
Yeah.
He says, I'm gonna screw up. In other words, he
Yeah.
really wants to hurt the guy who's giving.
So you could say if you chefed an animal in a incorrect way, it can become tummy.
It become tummy because it's considered not a shechita. Yeah.
Yeah.
So v'hahacha, however, the midday over here, but here the midday raisa to yimaratza. Midday raisa for sure works. The Tanya was taught in a brayse. Salma tzitz maratza ala dam ala basra ala chilif shenitma. Ben b'sheg ben mez ben 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 ratzim ben b'ch ben b'tzibar. Bam rabbanan lehortza. V'kahadar ma'il chulun la'azara. The plate that was on the Kohen Gadol's forehead, the gold plate, it says that was an atonement for impurity, any impurity in the temple.
Wow.
What type of impurity? Well, if the blood became tummy, if the meat became tummy, if the chilul became tummy, whether it was b'shagig, whether it was b'mezid, whether it was b'inus, whether it was b'ratzin, whether it's a private carbon, whether it's a community carbon, the tzitz atones for all of that.
Wow, okay.
Now, if that's the case, then midiraisa, it's clear that the sacrifice is valid because the tzitz covers that for those mistakes.
Magic wand.
Yeah, magic wand. It covers for those mistakes. However, the sages said that because you did it on purpose, you have to go and bring another sacrifice. Bring another sacrifice, but you can't just bring a mundane animal into the temple. if the first sacrifice was effective, then the second sacrifice is a chulin ba'azara. It's a mundane animal. It's not necessary. You bring an unnecessary carbon. So what's coming out here is the rabbis are able to say that I know according to the Torah it was good, but we say that it's not good. This is Rav Chisda's view that the rabbis can change things.
Didn't we learn that the worst thing that can happen is carbon towed up?
Carbon like a nedava. Yeah. Yeah. If it would be a chatas, though, it would be problematic. Here we're talking about maratza. Yeah, it would be problematic to bring a sacrifice that was not necessary. Amar Rab Yaisi Bar Chanina Mai Leihortza de Kamar. What does it mean Leihortza? Lahater Basar Ba'achila. Aval Bailam Neskaper. Really, they don't bring another sacrifice. The sacrifice was effective. So why do you say that it's Leihortza, that it wasn't an appeasement? What it means is that it's not eaten.
No.
But the sacrifice, there's no second sacrifice that's being brought. It says safe kamasakra achilas basar ksiva achlo oisam asher kupar behem malamit shakayna meichlam bailam eskaprim. It's not a minor thing; it's a major thing that the sacrifice should be eaten. That actually causes an atonement for the owners while the kainim are eating it. And here you're telling me that it's not eaten. Amalei sheval tasa shiny. We're still not saying that you're bringing another carbon. All we're saying is that they don't eat the sacrifice.
What's the vocabulary term of food that's left over after a carbon that's eaten by the Kohanim?
Nicer.
Nicer?
No, sir.
No, sir. Oh.
No, sir. It's left over. Here we're saying, that's basically what's going to happen. It's going to turn into no, sir, where you're going to just leave it. You're not going to eat it. And we're saying sheval tasa. The concept of sheval tasa is we're not telling the person to do a sin. We're telling him to do nothing. And the sin just happens. He didn't do the sin. He didn't do something, and that is considered a sin, but it's not. The rabbis didn't tell him to do it. The rabbis told him just not to do anything. And then it doesn't get eaten. I know that's not acceptable, but at least the rabbis didn't tell him to. But basically, what we're answering here is that if you're going to say sheval tasa, sit and don't perform, then the rabbis can do that, even though there's a biblical law that tells you that you need to perform. So here we're coming to some middle point that Rav Chisda held that the rabbis can even tell you to do a sin. Rabbi said that the rabbis can't tell you. They're saying, well, in the middle over here, the rabbis are telling you just not to do something, and that turns into a sin. But here, it's not doing the sin. Amarlei, Rabbi Chisda says to Rabbi, we're on top of Tzadik Aleph, Bailei Subach, I was about to ask you, Aral Hazah, Ismail Sudden Betzitzis, Kivsi Atzer, Shefer Balula. What is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 questions, but you just answered them all. That one answer answered all my next 8 questions.
So this example,
I'll give you what those questions were.
Of not performing a mitzvah d'oraisa, and the Rabban just kind of enacting that. Was this an example?
All of these are examples, right? You ready for the next 8 examples of that? Number 1 is it says that someone that converts on the day of Erev Pesach, he should not shech the carbon for him, because it's as if he's tamei.
Oh.
He has his bris right then. He's separating. It's like he's separating from the grave. It's like coming out of the grave when he has his bris. So someone may think that if he on the next year, if he's tamei, it was no problem. He's going to be able to shech the carbon pesach. So we said over there that even though he has a mitzvah to do the Korban Pesach, but the rabbi said because of a concern about what's going to happen next year, they said not to. If Erev Pesach is Shabbos, and there's a Isser D'Rabbanan, a rabbinic prohibition to sprinkle the water of the Parah Aduma on Shabbos. It's like fixing a vessel. So we say can't sprinkle it on Shabbos. Now the problem is that Shabbos was Erev Pesach, and we needed to shech the Korban Pesach for him, but the rabbi said not to. So the rabbis are telling him not to do a Korban Pesach. Or let's say there's a knife for a bris milah that needs to be brought, but it would need to be brought through an area that would be rabbinically forbidden to carry over the rooftops or large parks, the areas. So we say that you can't bring the knife on Shabbos. You're going to have to postpone the bris. Well, according to the Torah, you are allowed to, but the rabbis tell you not to. Or let's say putting tzitzis into a linen garment. There's a discussion. Tzitzis is wool because of the tchelas.
It's
so you're allowed to. You're allowed to, right? It's an exception. You're allowed to put wool and tzitzis into a linen garment. The only problem is, let's say he's going to wear it at night. And it's going to be a ksus laila, and which is exempt from tzitzis. It's just going to be shatnez without the mitzvah.
Oh.
So they tell you not to. Okay, now kivsei atzeres. We don't wear linen garments with tzitzis because we don't have we don't have tzitzis at night. We could wear. The Chabad custom is actually to wear even sleeping. But it's not the mitzvah. It's not the mitzvah. Now, if someone offered the kivsei atzeres shalei lishman, it was shechted, but not for the right intention. Turns out that it's really kosher, but we say that it's not. We say not to sprinkle the blood. Say not to sprinkle the blood. Now, what happens here is that there's not sprinkling the blood is a violation of 3 other commandments. He's supposed to sprinkle the blood. He's supposed to offer the limbs, and he's supposed to eat the meat. Because he didn't sprinkle the blood, he doesn't do any of those. So the rabbis are telling him not to do something which ultimately causes a biblical violation. And then not to blow the shofar on Shabbos because there's a concern someone may carry it in the street. And also with the lulav, not to take the lulav on Shabbos. It doesn't mention Megillah, which is the other one because that's not a biblical law anyway. So we say that because all of these are just telling you not to do something, the rabbis are allowed to say that you don't do something. Sheval tasa.
That's amazing.
Kulanami sheval tasa. No. Okay. Sheval tasa, sit and don't perform. That the rabbis can tell you, and then the prohibition just happens on its own.
We don't use that expression for behavior. We say sit and don't perform for a little kid. We don't use that. This is like a holy.
No, in school, I walked into class once, and my student said, "Would you punish me for something that I didn't do?" I said, "No." I said, "Well, I didn't do my homework."
That's good. Was it? Did you not do it intentionally or by accident? Yes.
We call that gross negligence.
So
Okay.
where is it written or referred to that a rabbi can overwrite a mitzvah d'oraisa? Like
That's where. Where you want to see that original expression?
Yeah, I find that amazing.
If you turn back to 89b. Yeah, so over here it says, and can the court stipulate and enact a decree to uproot something that applied by the Torah? Okay, we're on top of now 91. I'm sorry, 90b. 90 Tzaddik Amud Beis. Tashema. It says, "A love Tishmon. To him you should listen." He's talking about the Navi, the prophet. If it's only a temporary violation, so then you can listen to the prophet. If a prophet tells you to violate a Torah law, we don't listen to him. That's an argument against another religion that we have.
What is this referring to? What is
He had a showdown between the
Yeah, right.
prophets of Baal and himself, which was the prophet for Hashem. And he offered a sacrifice. He said, whichever one, if the fire comes down, that's going to be the true. So they went first and they offered their sacrifice, and then no fire came down. And he, mocked them. He said, maybe your God is sleeping or something. And then he offered the sacrifice, and they poured water on it and around the altar, and everything was water. And the fire came down and ate up everything. So
But he gave a carbon and
he gave a carbon outside the temple. That he wasn't allowed to do that. It was on Hara Carmel. So, but because it was a temporary thing and it was to show the people were worshiping both then. So you could listen to him. Well, you see, a rabbi is allowed to uproot something from the Torah. It says, Shani Hasim Diksive Lav Tishman. Over there it says that you had to listen to him. Well, why don't we listen to him and to learn from that they're allowed to do other things as well? It says Migdar Milsa Shiny. That was putting up a fence. People were worshiping idols. He had to do it to do this. It's a special occasion.
Life and death.
Sort of like a life and death situation, right? Yeah, there's a big discussion about how much you can play with this.
Because nowadays it feels like it's almost an avera if you like shake a lulav and estrog on Shabbos or
Right.
something. It's not. It's just a rabbinic decree. Not
Right.
Well, yeah, if you're inside your sukkah, you're
Right.
allowed to.
So now
It's just carrying.
you bring up an interesting point. If someone does shake a lulav on Shabbos, what did he do? I mean, biblically, that was fine.
Yeah.
Especially if it's the first day, right? And then rabbinically, because the lulav all the other days is only rabbinic anyway. But if it's
About lulav?
the lulav, only in the temple it was all 7 days. Outside the temple. But
Well, the shofar is blowing on.
the shofar, okay, he blows the shofar. That's a better example. He blows the shofar on Shabbos on Rosh Hashanah. Biblically, that was fine, but the rabbi said not to.
But aren't you
So
like creating a noise, like you're?
yeah, but that's it's not a problem biblically.
You could blow a whistle on Shabbos too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Biblically, it would be the rabbis that would tell you not to.
It's not a malacha.
Right. Yeah, so that's rabbinic. You could whistle, but not with the whistle.
Oh no, that's what I meant with the whistle.
With the
itself.
whistle, yeah. So that would be rabbinic. You may fix something or whatever, an instrument. Now,
Oh, I see.
so you fix the whistle. You get the little ball gets stuck. So so what would he really be violating? So he'd be violating a rabbinic law. Now,
But
how
it's a
bad is
mitzvah.
that? I understand, but the rabbis also knew that it was a mitzvah, and they said not to. So how bad is that?
What is it?
So that could be actually a violation of a biblical law of not listening to the rabbis. The Torah tells you that you have to follow the rabbis. It gets a little worse than just saying like, rabbinic decree. It's nothing. It could be. It depends. It's machlekes really the Rambam and the Raavad. If there's a biblical prohibition, the way the rabbis interpret the text, that everyone agrees is the deraisas. If it's interpretation of text, if it's a rabbinic decree, then the Rambam says that it's a biblical law, and the Ramban says
You
that
can't make
it's
the
not.
argument that it's a Torah Shabbal Peh, and that was just passed
No,
down
Torah
from Rosh Hashanah,
yeah.
from Har Sinai.
So Torah Shabbal Peh is also deraisa.
Mhm. Right.
That's what we're saying. The way the
Oh.
rabbis interpret that is all part of the Torah Shabbal Peh, and so we'll consider it. That is the rabbis tell us what the Torah the interpretation of the text is all deraisa. That's is clear, even though the rabbis are telling it us, and we have to listen to their interpretation. When it comes to new decrees, that's a discussion. Okay. Tashma. Very interesting, and actually a political issue comes up over here. Bitloi mevotel devri Rebbe Reb Shimon ben Gamliel Omer Eni Yachal Leila Vatlev Leila Haisef Al tonight. Imkain Makayach Bezdin Yafa. What happened over here is if someone sends a get to his wife, as the messenger is taking the get, he has regrets, and he says, "I nullify the messenger. I nullify the get. It hasn't reached her yet." So the get is now batal. Meanwhile, the get's en route, and it reaches the wife, and the wife says, "Oh, I'm divorced." The get is there. Now she thinks she's divorced. It's a problem because she doesn't know that she's not divorced. Meanwhile, she's going to get it's a very unhealthy situation. It's not a good. So the rabbi said that you can't be mavatal. You can't just walk into a court in your town and be mavatal a get on the way to another town. You would have to catch up to the shliach and stop him. So what happens if he did it anyway? So Rebbe says bitla is mavatal. Reb Shimon ben Gamliel says he can't be. He can't be mavatal. Because if so, makayach bezdin yafa, then what did the rabbis establish? It was really Rab Gamliel that instituted that you can't be mevatel again. So if you're telling me that it's batal anyway, then what did they gain by that enactment? It's interesting. We have 3 generations involved in this. You have Reb Shimon ben Gamliel, you have Rebbe, who was his son, and then you have Rabbi Gamliel Hazakin, really, which is it's more than 3 generations. It's Reb Shimon ben Gamliel's grandfather, great grandfather. So the problem is the midaraisa batal aget. Everyone agrees that it's really batal. Midaraisa, I know what's happened. The husband said that he is reneges on this mission, on this he retracts from this from the appointment. He cancels the appointment of the shliach. So it's batal. What's going on? Because you want to say that the rabbis have to have power, this woman that's really married, you're telling me is now divorced. She's a married woman, and because you want to strengthen the power of the rabbis, you're saying that she can walk around and get married. She's a single woman. Midaraisa, she's a married woman. Midarabanan, she's single. And he's saying now that she can go get married. This is clear that the rabbis are able to uproot something. The Gemara says, "Manda mekadesh, adaita de rabbanan mekadesh, v'afkinu rabbanan lekidushin." Nope, we have a way out of this. You know what we do it? When the woman got married, she said, the husband said, "Arayat mekudeshes li kedas Moshe v'Yisrael." It's according to the tradition, according to the laws of Moses in Israel. What he meant to say is that according to the way the rabbis accept marriage, and therefore if the rabbis don't accept this marriage, then it's not a real marriage. What the rabbis do in this case is if someone would later on give a get and then retract from that appointment, from the messenger, before the get reached his wife. So what the rabbis do is they take off the original marriage. They say, we never agreed to that marriage. He was never married. Amalei Ravina Ravashi, Hatenach the Kaddish Bekaspa, says that's a nice try. If the marriage was money, they can say that the money that he gave her is hefker. He never gave her anything. They take away. We learned before the Bezdin can make everything ownerless. It's like what do they call it? Like eminent domain, sort of like the government can come in and just take away property. So the Bezdin is allowed to take away property. But Kaddish Babiyah Maya Klameimar, let's say the marriage was not with a ring. Let's say the marriage was because he lived with her. It's another way of getting married. So the Gemara says, Shavi Rabbanan lebilasi bilasnus. The rabbi said that relations was just zinus.
Wow.
Licentious behavior. Okay, I think to understand this Gemara, you have to hear the politics of this. There was a get I'm sorry. There was a case of mamzerim in Eretz Yisrael. There was a woman that had children. I remember the details, but she was a married woman. She had children with someone else, and in order to help out those children, they shouldn't be mamzerim. They came up with a solution that will send the get, take and then retract from the get, let the get reach her. She'll be divorced only rabbinically, because biblically it's not a divorce. How does a rabbinic divorce work? How does the divorce work in this case? Is because the rabbis take away the marriage from the beginning. The rabbis take away the marriage from the beginning, so she wasn't a married woman when she had the affair. Wow. And then the mamzerim won't be mamzerim. She was never married.
You can just
apply
to.
It sounded like a loophole that like a radical. Anyway, it was some of the rabbis went for this in Israel, and they allowed this to happen. Yeah, it was a big political thing. Anyway, I was surprised. I actually see the Taisus Yishenim. It says Vim Taimar in you see in this Taisus Yishenim. Shavir Rabban Bilas Bilas Im Kain Yichelim Mamzerim Litar. You can always fix up a mamzer. How? Shitin laget al yedei shliach. We have atleno shlei befanav. B'nei mafkin rabban l'kedushim. B'nei nimtza shlei hoysei ishish kasher. It's mamish the Taisus Yishenim. I thought it was a new new thing.
This opinion exactly.
Yeah, over here it says it as a question. Like, how could this really be accurate? This is what's going to happen. So they say, oh, okay, it happened.
Wow.
Okay. Tashima.
As if the money thing doesn't work. If you could annul the money or say.
Yeah, so how would it work? It would work because they made the money hefker, or if it was relations, they made the relations just into essentials. They say that
Did it really own the money?
Yeah, the money that he gave was not his. It was ours.
I changed the currency.
Yeah. Okay. Amalei Ravina Ravashi. I'm sorry. Tashima. Holding at come and listen. Amar Abelazar ben Yaakov Shemati Shebezdin Makim Vainchin Shleiman Atayra. Lay Lavar al Divrei Torah Lasas Yog Latayra. Abelazar ben Yaakov says, I heard that the Bezdin can give punishments, even though the Torah doesn't say that punishment is deserving. And it's not a violation, it's just setting up a fence. This person was riding on a horse on Shabbos in the days of the Greeks. They brought him to Bezdin and they stoned him. That's not a biblical violation, riding on a horse. The rabbi said not to ride on a horse. But it was getting out of hand. So they gave a very strict
Didn't it say on Shabbos you shouldn't have your animals work also?
Yeah. Now, carrying a person would not be working. And even if the animals do work, it's not a biblical prohibition. It's not a capital punishment prohibition.
Oh.
Here, they're giving capital punishment for the...
They killed him on Shabbos.
They not killed him on Shabbos. They killed him because of a Shabbos violation. A rabbinical violation on Shabbos. Next case. A man has relations with his wife outside under the fig tree. Well, they bring him to Bezdin, they give him lashes. It's easier than killing him, right? It's a little lighter. But not because that's the law, that someone that has relations with his wife. It was just immodest.
We had fig leaves.
His clothing.
No, that was his defense.
So, I don't know why it's specifically the fig tree. The fig tree does not have a lot of leaves, right? But there is a fig tree that there is.
Maybe another tree.
What is it?
Maybe another tree.
It was another tree. No, te'ena Tena is a fig, but there is this Asian fig tree, and I saw it in Fruit and Spice Park. Rika something fig. The canopy, it's literally like a house. You walk inside, you're in like a. So maybe that's the one. Okay, so then they wouldn't have given him Malchus if he's in his house. So okay, Migdal Milsa shiny over there. They had to set up a fence. They had to stop. Things were getting out of hand. They had to stop, so they did that. Okay, can I go a little further? Let's see. Both husbands are not allowed to become tummy. We're talking about this woman that her husband went on a trip. She thought he passed away, and then she got remarried. Anyway, they can't become tummy to her, or they don't have to become to her. If they're a Kohen, they don't become tummy to her. Minalan, where do we see this? The ksiv kim l'sheirei akarev elav, only to the close relatives. V'amar mar sherezu ishtei. What does it mean, close relative? It's talking about his wife, because it lists the other relatives. Right? Father, mother, sister, brother, son, daughter. It doesn't so it doesn't say the wife. The Gemara tells us she'erei when it says the relative means the wife. It also, we have another pasuk says that a husband should not become tamei in a way that would make him profaned. Yesh bal shemetame, yesh bal she'ein metame. There is a husband that does become tamei to his wife, and there is one that doesn't. Haketzad metame hu lishtik sheira ve'ena metame lishtik psula. He doesn't become tamei if that wife would make him profane. But if it's a kosher wife, then he would. So the problem is here is that he's married to a woman now that he's not allowed to stay married to. So that's why he doesn't become tamei to her. They don't take her the objects that she finds. If she finds something, they don't keep the husband. Usually the husband keeps. Why not? We give it to him because we want him to have endearment, to feel good about his wife. So the things that she finds would go to him. But over here, we're not interested in that. Over here, we don't mind if there's animosity between them. But my siyadeh, the work of her hands, he doesn't keep. He doesn't keep her income. Why usually does the husband get the income of his wife? Because she is eating his food, so he keeps her income. They have one bank account, and he feeds her, so all her income goes into that same bank account. She doesn't eat his food. Because they're not supposed to be married, so she has to have her own food. So therefore, my siyadel abdi day, so he doesn't keep her income. He doesn't also annul her vows. Why is husband allowed to annul the vows of his wife? Because let's say she took a vow that she's not going to shower. So we don't want her to be disgusting to her husband. So the husband can annul that. But over here, we don't mind. What did she say already? She took a vow. She's not going to shower. Okay, so she won't shower and they'll get divorced. We don't want them to stay married anyway. We'll get to the top. If it's a Bas Yisrael and she's married to a Kohen, now she can't eat truma. Shita, of course not. She's considered a Zaina. She lived with a man that wasn't her husband while she's married. The Gemara says, well, that you're right. That case was actually obvious, but the next case was not so obvious because Bas Levi Menamaisa Tzrichle had to tell me a big chiddush that if it's a Bas Levi, she can't eat Maisa. Bas Levi Menamaisa mi mifsla business, why not? But Tanya Leviish Nishbis Nivel Bilas Nus Nisla Maisa Vaycheles. Let her eat. Let her eat. If she doesn't become defiled because she had snus, that she's not a Levi anymore. Amarav Sheshis Knasa. Shesha says, you're right, but this is a knas. We put it there. This is a fine on her because of she didn't check carefully before she got remarried. So that's why she doesn't eat meiser. And Baskayan Minat Shuma Fila B'Shuma Derabanan. She doesn't eat Shuma. The Chiddush over here is that she doesn't even eat Shuma Miderabanan. Even Truma Daraban, like Trumas Chutz La'aretz. Okay, let's leave it over there. Vein Yarshin.
Rabbi, did you get that video I sent you?
I don't think so.
Do you get regular messages?
Yeah.
I sent
Oh,
you?
maybe I did.